Now let's get right over to the phones. We've been spending Mondays, and because today is like a Monday because we were off yesterday, our good friend Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health is taking time out of his morning for us once again. Dr. Norem, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
How's everything going this morning?
It's doing well. It's nice to get a little taste of summer.
Isn't it, though? Yeah, it's amazing how, a little buoying of the temperatures and all that does wonders for people's attitudes, which is one of the things I wanted to ask you about this morning in regards to what we're going through with this COVID-19 crisis, looking at a piece out of the Wall Street Journal. More people are taking drugs for anxiety and insomnia, and doctors are worried, leads the headline.
Interesting thought. I think we've talked over the weeks about the stress of being locked up, in essence, and being stuck at home. And it's not surprising that people are looking for some way to deal with it in terms of medication. Unfortunately, the best way to deal with it is to be able to get out of your house and exercise and do things, which we just can't.
I'm looking at prescriptions for anti-anxiety medications, such as, if I mispronounce these, forgive me, Klonopin, Ativan, rose 10.2% of the U.S. to 9.7 million in March of 2020 from 8.8 million in March of 2019. Antidepressants, including Prozac and Lexapro, rose 9.2% to 29.7 million from 27.2 million the same period a year ago.
Yeah, I find that interesting. That is a significant rise, although it's not, over the top. You're looking at about a 10% rise. In my own practice, I haven't noticed that, so it surprises me just a little bit. But I think given the context of what's happening right now, not surprising that people are frustrated.
Before going the medication route, what are you saying to patients, or what do you recommend for patients who are having some, as the piece here quotes, a serious impact on their mental health?
Well, again, there are some resources, I think, on the internet, but if people can socialize a little bit more. I know many people are doing that through things like Zoom, and unfortunately some people don't have access, or they're just not familiar with the way to contact other people. But, give your friends a call. Call up people you haven't seen in a long time. Discuss this with other people. A lot of times we think we are kind of alone. We don't want to talk about our problems with other people or other individuals, and I think you should reach out to talk to your family, to talk to your friends. And certainly it's an option now. At least you can get out and exercise. You can take a walk. I think everybody agrees that's safe enough. You keep your distance. And the weather's turning here, and hopefully this turn in the weather will allow people to get out of their homes.
Riley mentioned the insomnia angle, and we've heard that a lot. Starting about a month ago, we hear a bunch of stories. People can't get to sleep. Their body clocks are all off. In your experience, what's the best? I mean, we hear there's about 100 different tips to make sure you get to sleep right. What would be your like top three tips if somebody's having a hard time getting to sleep at night?
Well, I think it's that idea of sleep hygiene, not eating or drinking right before bed, especially caffeinated products, not eating a big meal and then trying to go to sleep. Try to get a little exercise, possibly before bedtime. Try to get on a schedule. A lot of people think I'm going to flip on the TV and maybe that'll get me to go to sleep, and that usually backfires. And then we're back to dealing a little bit with the stress, because many, many patients tell me this, and I think we've all experienced this, that, you have some issues, you're a little bit anxious about a thing. What happens? You lay down, you turn off the lights, and you can't turn the brain off. Mm-mm. If we could only find that little switch we could flip off, it would make it so much easier.
You don't know where the switch is?
I haven't found it myself.
Okay, all right.
No, I've never been able to locate it either.
No.
You reach around and you're in your own head trying to find that thing to turn that off, and by the time you get real close to it, you think the alarm clock goes off.
Right, yes, real close.
So, but reach out, do things that will bring you into contact, if albeit not physically, in another way with someone else, to try to alleviate some of the stress that we're heaping onto ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't just sit around and ruminate and be anxious. And And medications obviously can be helpful, and it's reasonable to discuss this with your physician. I think that's a good thought. But I kind of see that as partnering with doing these other things for your mental health.
Looking at some of the other things as far as different states unlocking, reopening, that sort of thing. You had NBC Nightly News airing a segment over the weekend analyzing Georgia's much criticized reopening about a month after they had done it. Before they had done it, saying this was going to be a horrible, horrible, horrible decision. You're really going to make some people sick and make some people die. But they actually over the weekend had to admit there had been no major spike in cases in Georgia after 1 month of reopening. What does that say to us?
I think it says that every area of the country is a little different. And I think time will tell as we kind of see the second wind or the second round of COVID to see how it affects these areas that opened earlier. We just don't know. We're kind of learning as we go. And again, areas that are less populous and maybe areas in the South will have much less of a problem with it. The one thing I did notice that, Sweden, that everybody talks about, how they never really shut things down. Interestingly, their death rate is inching up to probably be the highest death rate per population of any country when this is all over. So, again, I think we have to look at areas in terms of their own specificity and not be able to make, comments that, what works in Georgia may work in New York, may work in Illinois, may not work in Illinois, may backfire in Illinois.
One of the screening measures that we hear all the time is people getting their temperature taken, and this is just kind of a personal thing for me. I've been harping on for a while. How is that just for peace of mind? How effective is it taking somebody's temperature? We talk about asymptomatic. If you already have symptoms that would include fever, wouldn't you already hopefully be self-isolating? How effective do you think taking people's temperature at Disney World and stuff leads to keeping us safe?
I think it's helpful. I don't know if I can put a percentage of how effective it is. The problem being is we well know that the asymptomatic individuals can be 25, 30, maybe 40% of the population, so taking the temperature isn't going to matter. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you don't want sick individuals, and the temperature is probably the one thing that we can easily do that isn't too difficult and does give us some information to say, hey, if you're sick, don't come in.
Okay. Yeah, just don't force the issue.
Right. Unfortunately, we'd like, to be able to do a rapid test and be able to test everybody, and you'd know right away within a few minutes, hey, you're positive, you're negative, you can go, you can't go. Just not practical. And I don't know that it'll ever be practical.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that would be a huge, huge undertaking. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of tests ready to go at a moment's notice, and that many people around to figure out what those tests say.
Yeah, absolutely. So temperature is something everybody understands, and obviously it's one of the hallmark symptoms of the COVID-19. So it's kind of the best thing that we have, our best tool in our toolbox, so we have to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Where's the science community right now as far as understanding what the coronavirus and COVID-19 as related to how well we understand the flu or the cold? Are we still finding out new things? Are we still being surprised weekly, or do we have a pretty good hold on what's going on here?
I think there's still some surprises out there. I think the thing I noticed last week is there's a lot of discussion about the fact that this is absolutely a human-to-human transmission, that all this concern about virus on surfaces is probably overstated. Even though you can find virus on surfaces, cardboard, stainless steel, etc., it may not be very infective after a very short period of time. I think there's a
difference between a living virus and a virus that's likely to infect you.
Right. And we talked a little bit about virology last week, and I think one of the things that I found interesting is I did finally find a quote that it appears that the COVID-19 virus is pretty aggressive in terms of of its ability to infect another person, again, person to person, a live virus, you probably need a few hundred to a few thousand viral particles to become infected, depending on the status of the person, or the host, as we call it, their susceptibility. And of course, we've talked about all these susceptibility factors, about age, about obesity, about the receptor sites. So I think we're pretty far up on the curve on COVID-19 in terms of our learning, but we still have a long ways to go in terms of really understanding completely and how it differs from the flu. Clearly, it is different in that it is more aggressive in terms of its ability to infect people.
And this second wave that we keep hearing the potential of, and that's pretty much where it sits, though. There is the potential, but there's nothing solid that says we'll definitely be looking at a second wave.
Nothing solid. I think all of these scientists predict there will be some kind of second wave. I think that's inevitable because our population exposure is still fairly low. I see numbers as in the 5% range, 7%, maybe 10% in some of the areas in New York. So we're definitely going to see this come around in a second wave and probably a third wave. Again, the hope is that as we get a vaccination and better treatments, we'll be able to deal with those much more effectively.
Circling back real quick to how this gets passed and transmitted from person to person. So we've kind of all gotten to the agreement that it's you're not just going to touch something probably and pick it up. When we're talking from person to person, is that just through the moisture coming out of our breaths, secretion? Does it live outside of us without traveling through water droplets, something like that, or is the water droplets the main mode of transportation for the virus?
Yes, water droplets seem to be the main mode of transportation. It's excreted in all of our bodily secretions, our sweat, our stool, our urine, but it appears that those are probably not nearly as effective as those droplet secretions. You know, we've all seen the pictures on the TV of somebody sneezing and how that blows this sort of fume for 5 or 6 feet, and that gets back to, our distancing and how far we think those droplets can travel before they fall to the ground.
So it's not as imperative, if I'm to read what the CDC said last week and what we're getting onto this, when you go to the grocery store, because, we've been doing the thing, you haul them all in. The whole thing is taking twice as long because once all the groceries are hauled in, they're all set on the floor, and usually me on the floor with the wipes, wiping down every single item that we then pull out of the bags and then wiping down the floor where they sat.
I think we're going to find probably that is not necessary. On the other hand, I suppose you could make the argument that that can of tomatoes, if somebody just sneezed on it and you grabbed it within a short period of time, that yes, those secretions are still there and they still infect you. But what's the magic timing? If you let those groceries sit overnight, probably in all likelihood, there's nothing that's going to cause an infection.
All right, so our main defense, if you could tell people just to do one thing, we're still sitting on masks, right? Face coverings?
Face coverings, and wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
And cover your mouth. If you're going to sneeze, boy, get that nose in your elbow. Do not blast that all out, outside your mask and out into the air.
Well, I saw a guy who actually, you got to credit the bumper sticker people for jumping all over these sorts of things. A guy had a sticker in the back of his car that I just saw the other day, said sneezing in public is the new farting in public.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have a little humor, don't you?
Absolutely. So you draw about the same reaction out of people, only they're probably a little less mad at you for farting.
Well, especially now because everybody's got a mask on, so there's no smell.
I hadn't really looked at it like that.
Well, and as far as I know, we can't pass it through our farts, so okay. I think we're okay there.
Good to know.
Well, we're wearing butt masks usually, so we're all right.
That's right, just a towel around the waist. Dr. Norem, as always, we appreciate the time. We appreciate the expertise, and we're not through this thing yet. If you're willing, we would love to have you come back on Monday for a revisit on this topic.
Oh, absolutely. Catch you guys next week.
We appreciate it. There's Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health.